Welcome to this episode of Her Rebirth. I'm Angela Peabody, your host. In this conversation, we will be chatting with a woman who wears many hats. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Wallicia Gill to Her Rebirth. Welcome, Wallicia.
Good morning, and thank you very much. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be able to participate in this recording, and thank you for that.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So we know that you are involved in, like I said in the introduction, in several things that keep you so busy. But please tell us who you really are. Who is Dr. Wallicia Gill?
That's a very interesting question. I think it's a very interesting question when applied to anyone, because we are so many things. For me, I feel I am so many things. But what is so critically important to me is that I'm a family member. And my family member status, guided by my faith, as I work in the role of wife and mother and grandmother, and I consider my family role certainly my greatest blessings. And I say that because my role as a family member plays a big role and guides me in terms of my community work. I think that who we are is largely controlled by family. I believe that strong families impact our communities, because what we learn in our family structure teaches us how to treat one another. It helps us in our ability to get along with others and to respect others and to solve problems, and mostly to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. So I certainly know that I learned those things in my family setting, and thus I have tried very, very hard to model that in my role as a family member. So family is a biggie for me, and that drives and influences who I am. But just as importantly, I love learning. And I think that as long as you're on this earth, it is an opportunity for you to learn, and that you learn a great deal from others whom you interact with. So my community work has allowed me to continue to learn, to embrace others. So I guess in a rambling sort of way, perhaps, I hope that I've given you some insight into who I am. Family drives me. The tenets that you learn in a family setting, and being a lifelong learner. In spite of all of the, professional stuff and the degrees, it's pretty basic when I come down to it. It's about strong family and being committed to lifelong learning.
I have to agree with you on that, especially with family. You can be many things and you can do many things, but in this world, but when it comes down to it, it's family that you turn to when help is needed, and that's what makes a strong family person. So thanks for telling us who you really are.
Family keeps us rooted, I think, is another comment that I would add here, Angela. It keeps us rooted. It certainly keeps us humble. I laugh with friends. I have 3 daughters and a spouse. So, and then extended family. So keeps me humble.
It does. It does humble you. So You have been a school teacher and a school principal. How long were you a school principal? How long were you a school teacher?
I was in the educational space for 36 years in terms of public school work. And then I spent about 3 years as an adjunct professor. So I was in the university space as well. 8 years of the secondary school, or public school, were spent in the classroom. And then I spent about 26 years as an assistant principal and principal. So, I had spent a long time, and it was a wonderful career. And I loved every moment of it. But when I knew that it was time to retire, I closed that chapter and have not once looked back in regret. It was a wonderful, wonderful, challenging experience. It kept me on my feet. Each day was often a new one. You just never knew what was going to emerge when you walked through those doors. But it was incredibly rewarding professionally.
I imagine teaching students, especially high school and middle school level, it's not an easy task. So I have a great deal of respect for school teachers, and I always thought that school teachers are very underpaid for the nature of their work. So congratulations for being not only a school teacher, but also a school principal and dedicating all those years, 3 decades, more than 3 decades, to the teaching profession. So you mentioned retirement. That leads us to the next item to talk about. How has being retired changed your life? Has it changed your life in any way at all?
Before I answer that, Angela, I just want to say thank you for acknowledging the hard work that goes on in schools. So many people fail to appreciate that. They really do. And it's not just about the pay, it's about the respect. So whenever a compliment is paid to teachers, I am always so grateful and appreciative, because so often, so many people think that teachers don't do anything, that teachers, because they were in school and perhaps their experiences were not the greatest, they think, oh, teachers get the summer off. You've got 3 months in the year when you're not teaching, and it's an easy gig. No, far from the truth. Those 3 months, teachers, strong teachers, are preparing and planning and working and getting ready for the coming year. So I'm going to just get to the question that you asked about being retired, but I just had to stop and thank you for acknowledging us and being appreciative of the hard work that we do.
Of
So,
course.
how has being retired changed my life at all? Well, one of the things that I really have come to appreciate in retirement is that I'm no longer controlled by a clock. And I say that in a teasing way, so to speak, but there's a lot of truth to it as well. As a school teacher, as a principal, you had to be there on time and ready to meet the children as those buses rolled in, because no matter what happened, the buses were going to arrive and the children were going to be there, and you needed to be there to take care of them. The other thing is that once in that schoolhouse, you didn't have the luxury of thinking, oh, I've been working really hard here. And you did work hard. I think I'll take a break and go up to the nearest coffee shop and have a cappuccino. That just didn't happen. You just didn't have that luxury because the children were there with you in those 6 hours, and you needed to be present and available. So, not being so controlled by the clock has been just wonderful as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'm busy and I'm involved in my community. And of course, I have schedules and things that I have to do on time where the clock is important. But I have a little more say so about that. I can schedule when I want to do my community work with a little more flexibility than I had when I was in the professional space. So, not being controlled by that clock has been a wonderful bonus of being retired. At the same time, I don't know that a whole lot has changed because with all the community work that I'm doing and the spaces that I'm in, I continue to, in some ways, teach. So, in that respect, it's been the same, and it's been an advantage, and it's been welcomed. So, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does, which is a good segue. Your answer is a good segue into my next question. And Global Women Peace Foundation has been a beneficiary to your retirement years because you have been a board member of Global Women Peace Foundation since June of 2018. That's how long it's been. How have those?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Tell us how those 7 years have been for you, the experience with being a board member with Global Women Peace Foundation.
Angela, this work has been so extremely rewarding and certainly worthwhile. And a few minutes ago, I talked about being a lifelong learner. I have learned so much about FGM and about the challenges that many of our sisters face around the world, and certainly right here in the United States. So it has been just an eye opener, and I have welcomed the opportunity to learn and to use my skills in whatever capacity that I've been able to do so. I feel so strongly about our commitment to safety and education of young women. And I think that's probably driven by the fact that I have 3 daughters and I have 3 granddaughters. And so women's issues resonate with me. I'm also a woman. So to work in this space and to do projects like the sanitary pads campaign, where the work is directly impacting girls and women, is just very, very rewarding. To be able to support scholarship programs, again, very, very rewarding because education, I think all of us would agree that education allows one to make choices. It opens our eyes. It allows us to make choices about our lives. So to be able to support young women being in school when they're having their monthly cycle, because we can provide hygiene products for them, I think that's pretty significant. And it's I consider that very, very valuable. Our scholarship program, to be able to support young women continuing their education, that's powerful work. That's significant work. And I feel honored to be able to be a part of that.
And then you mentioned sanitary pads. So that leads me to my next question. Since Global Women Peace Foundation launched its sanitary pads campaign, you have really been instrumental in the success of that campaign. So tell us the secret behind the success of that campaign and your involvement in it.
Well, you know, I believe in partnerships being very, very significant. And I'm always looking for ways to develop partnerships in the different arenas or the different spaces where I find myself. And the work of Rotary, for example, their work in maternal health and education and economic development in our third world countries, those are significant underpinnings of Rotary's work. But when I started to think about that, I thought, well, wait a minute. Global Woman Peace Foundation is also committed to the well being of children, women, young women. And there is an intersection here of the work that's being done by Rotary and the work that's being done by Global Woman Peace Foundation. And so I saw my role as, hey, seek out a way to bring these two groups together because we're working on some of the same things. We value some of the very, very same tenets, if you will. And so I have been fortunate enough to be able to get the attention of a couple of Rotary clubs in our district. The Vienna Rotary Club and the McLean Rotary Club have become very, very significant partners in sponsoring our sanitary pads campaign. And I just think that's fantastic. And it kind of epitomizes this idea of bringing organizations together who have the same mission, if you will, or whose tenets are very, very similar. And I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Deborah Jackson from the McLean Club, who has just been so incredibly instrumental in helping us in this partnership. She got her club involved, the McLean Club, and then through her contacts was also to get the interest of the Vienna Rotary Club involved. So thank you, Dr. Jackson. We so appreciate your commitment to our work. So that has, I guess, been my role in helping us get this campaign moving. And I would say we have had some success in doing so.
I would say we've had great success in doing so. And thank you. Yes, thanks to Dr. Deborah Jackson and the McLean Rotary Club, as well as the Vienna Rotary Club. And they continue their support. And it wouldn't have happened without you, Wallicia. So thank you very much.
But Angela, you are due some credit here and kind of a shout out too, because you also reached out to a local high school here in our community, and high school kids and middle school kids too, they take on humanitarian projects with such energy and enthusiasm and excitement. And you know, this local high school, Chantilly High School interns have just also been incredibly helpful to us in making this campaign a success. And you had a role in that. So thank you for that.
Yes, thanks to the Chantilly High School interns for the role they played. So beside your interest in female genital mutilation and cutting, more commonly known as FGM or FGMC, you also have an interest in teen sex trafficking. You've written articles about it. You've shown a lot of interest in it, just like you've shown in the practice of FGMC. Tell us about your involvement with Just Ask Prevention, which you wrote articles for.
Here again, through my work with Rotary, when I first arrived as a member of Rotary, I was given the responsibility of setting up speakers for our meetings. And so in researching different topics and trying to get people to visit us and share with us, I came across this organization named Just Ask Prevention. And here again, had my eyes opened about the amount of teen sex trafficking that is going on in our community. And our community is one of those prime communities because of affluence and because of transportation systems. We have access to major interstate highway systems that contributes and supports that horrible practice, I guess you will, or horrible crime. And Just Ask Prevention was a nonprofit doing an awful lot of work in that space. And the lady came and spoke to us. And I was just so flummoxed and disturbed by what I was hearing that I thought, gosh, I have got to learn more about this. Because when you have knowledge about stuff that's going on around you, then it affords you an opportunity to help do something about it. And so that was kind of a little bit of history about how I got involved with that. And so I worked with that group. And then in my work with the Democratic Party here in my community, I mentioned it. And I said, there are so many people out there who know so little about that. And one of the individuals who was running the newsletter said, well, let's do something about that. Let's inform people. Let's do a series of articles on that topic. And so I had an opportunity then to write, co-author with the editor, articles on that topic.
Great. Yes. Well, I enjoyed a couple of your articles on sex trafficking because, as you know, talking about intersection and these different causes intersecting each other, it's female genital mutilation and cutting also intersects sex trafficking because there are some survivors of FGMC that are also survivors of sex trafficking.
And the overarching theme here is violence against women.
Women, yes, that's the key.
Yes. So whatever we can do, whether it's educating the community and helping people perhaps recognize, know, see something, and in turn maybe saying something, we can save one or save some folks from these horrible experiences.
Absolutely.
That was kind of my approach.
Yes. So where does the humanitarian in you get her inspiration?
I believe that first teachers are your parents and certainly your mother. And those were my experiences. My inspiration comes from my first teachers, my mother, and I had the good fortune of having a grandmother who lived very nearby. And these were not college educated women, but they were very, very wise women. And I watched them quietly work in the community and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That was just something that was preached religiously by my mother and my grandmother. Treating others with respect, showing kindness, showing love, and sharing with others were just powerful lessons that I learned very early on. And so I think it was probably very natural for me having that kind of written in my DNA, if you will, by those wonderful women, caused me to gravitate towards teaching and where I could, I think, make a big impact on families and children and communities. So that's my inspiration, my mom and my grandmother. They were wonderful women who just very quietly went about their business, doing good things in the community. My grandmother worked in the church, of course. She was a deaconess, and she took that role very seriously and did whatever she could to support the church and to support church members. My mother worked as the church treasurer, and oh, she was again so committed to that job. And it was a tiny little church, a tiny, tiny little church. But she gave her heart and soul to doing that job and doing it the very best that she could, and being a good neighbor and being supportive of folks who needed help in whatever way she could. And it's funny when you're a little kid running around, I'm not, I sometimes marvel at how much the modeling impacts who you are and who you become. And in my case, I think that those women and what they did in their very simple and committed way, those things were impactful for me as I grew up and became a wife and mother and community member. And think that they would approve very much of what I'm doing. And my grandmother used to always say to me, Wallicia, a smile doesn't cost you anything. So smile, smile.
Yes, congratulations to both of those women, because they would be very proud of you, I'm sure, if they were here. So we've already touched on the Rotary International and your role and how it helped GWPF, Global Women Peace Foundation. Is there anything else you would like to share about your role with Global Women Peace Foundation's board of directors?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am so excited about the sanitary napkins campaign about to grow in another direction. We have been learning that sometimes in the countries where we are providing the disposable products, dealing with the refuse and some of the environmental issues can be challenging. And so we are beginning to look at creating a program where the young women can make their reusable products. And we are currently working with an intern from GW And we are going to partner with a school in Liberia, Miss Julie Tate's school. And this is, again, I see it as an opportunity to grow and to not only address the refuse and perhaps environmental issues, but create an opportunity for young women and moms, perhaps, to create their own economy of sorts. So this is incredibly exciting, and I'm real interested in seeing where that goes and how our pilot program does. And again, opportunities for other young women in other countries like Guinea and Senegal and Sierra Leone to do the same thing. So this is very, very exciting, the reusable pad program.
That sounds exciting. Perhaps you would like to come back and talk to us later on once the program is launched and it's successful in Liberia. We could have a conversation in the future about the reusable pads. I would love to have you come back and talk about that.
Oh,
Our listeners know.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it would be exciting for some of perhaps the young women who might be involved in piloting this to share their experiences and to be a part of this discussion. I think that would be, really powerful for others to hear from them.
Absolutely. So before we close, as a mother and grandmother, what advice do you have for survivors of FGMC?
We all encounter very, very challenging situations, bad situations, hard times, setbacks, disappointments. But I would say none of us are defined by that. I would say, in spite of it all, you keep striving and you keep trying. And I love the poem Invictus by William Ernest Henley because I think it sums it up so beautifully. It's about resilience and grit and determination. And I just love the lines that the end lines. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And so what that says to me, no matter, you can be in control of you because no one can control your mind. No one can control your determination and your tenacity and your belief in yourself. No one can control that. No matter what comes your way, you can overcome that. You don't have to be defined by those challenges, by those setbacks, by those hard times. So that, I guess, would be my advice if you could sum it up. That would be my advice. Stick to it. Be determined.
I agree fully. Thank you so much, Dr. Wallicia Gill, for joining me today. You have created quite a legacy, and I'm sure that you have even bigger plans for the future. Especially with that, we want to hear more about the reusable sanitary pads campaign. We'll have links to associated resources and materials on our website. And for more information about how to support efforts to end FGMC, please visit our website at www.gwpfnd.org. If you enjoyed this episode of Her Rebirth, please do two things. Subscribe to Her Rebirth so you will never miss another episode. And secondly, please share with all of your friends and family. We cannot wait for you to be back for the next episode. Thank you for listening.